Hello and welcome to India Global. I'm Gaurie Dwivedi. Let's take a look at what's making news this Friday.
New rules come into force for UK family visa. Income threshold increased by over 55%. US, Japan, Philippines hold first trilateral. Biden warns on Beijing's South China Sea moves. And Switzerland to host Ukraine Peace Summit. Over 100 nations invited, including India. Aims for path towards peace in Ukraine.
The big story that we are tracking right now, the UK government has been ramping up restrictions on its student, graduate route and work visas. It says the objective is to reduce the burden of immigrants on the entire region. In a major shift in policy, the UK government has said that the salary requirements for working visas for British citizens and residents, including those of Indian origin, have gone up by nearly 50%. The new rules came into effect on 11th of April and are part of a larger overhaul of the entire immigration program announced in May 2023 by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. As per the latest changes, a minimum annual salary of £29,000 is now required for someone who has to be sponsored to come to the UK on a family visa. This follows restrictions introduced on student visa program earlier. Given that Indians top the list of non-EU nationalities, we get into Indian voices to understand just how significant these changes are, how much will this impact Indians looking to study and work in the UK going forward. We have with us Vareesh Pratap, President of the Cambridge Students' Union, joining us to tell us more in detail just how significant these changes are and how much will they impact Indians wishing to work and study in the UK going forward. Vareesh, thank you so much for taking out the time and joining us to discuss this in greater detail. First up, your first thoughts on the changes that have come in place. Help us understand just how significant these new rules are going to be.
Thank you for having me. So, it's a significant change that we have moved from about 26,200 to 38,000. It's a huge, and students are across the UK. I have been in touch with students representative from many other universities, and students are really very much worried about it. And we do have many Indians in the UK university. It tops the list. So the Indian students are also very much concerned about these changes.
Some of this was anticipated given that the immigration overhaul was announced by the Prime Minister last year. Some of it has already been announced in the last couple of weeks. Is there a sense and a concern that more could be in the pipeline? Maybe this is still unfinished agenda and the rules could probably get more stringent going forward?
Well, it will be difficult to see what's in the files of in the cabinet secretariat, but if we follow the chronology, at the start of this year, they put a restriction for almost all the students on bringing their family members to UK on a student dependent visa. So currently, no other than any student on postgraduate research program or on a PhD program can bring their family members. And very recently, just announced very recently, they have increased the upper cap, the threshold cap, the lower cap on the
income levels, yes.
Income levels as well. And very recently they introduced they set up a task force to expedite the findings on the graduate visa as well. So students are a bit concerned what would happen in coming days.
But from a clarity point of view, I want to understand that, and all those I'm sure watching this would want to know that what happens to those students who are midway into this program? What happens to them for the future? Of course, it's very clear that these rules will come into effect. But what about those who are already there? Is there a sense that more clarity is awaited?
It will be difficult to assess things from the government side. Students are totally clueless. And in the UK, I mean, we do have a different recruitment cycle in comparison to India, where companies will visit your campus and they will award you a job. In UK, you will be required to apply for those jobs earlier the academic year. That means you have to be done with your application by the end of December or later by January. So if you are hearing such things in April, I mean, it becomes very difficult for students to navigate the situation.
Stay with us, Vareesh. I want to bring in Sanam Arora, who's the chairperson of National Indian Students and Alumni Union in the UK as well, to dissect this in greater detail and help us understand the significance of these rules and just how large is the impact that we are talking about, the number of students that you think are going to be hit by these new rules. Sanam, take us through that. And also, is there a way that there can be some sort of a decision that can be, is there a way that students can reach out to authorities, or organizations like you could probably be some sort of launching pad for them to really help them understand the significance of these rules and also navigate through the lack of clarity right now?
Firstly, the question around the volumes of students who are impacted. This is quite a significant change. So the graduate route, which is the ability to have post-study working rights in the UK for a period of 2 to 3 years, is something we actually campaigned for 7 years to have in the first place. It was brought in 2020. Speaking just of Indian students, it led to a rise of from about 22,000 students at that point in time to about 140,000 plus was the last recorded intake. And what we've already seen, and we know for a fact that 70 to 75% of Indian students say that this is a single most important factor in their decision to choose between a UK or an Australia or an or a Canada or any other destination, the ability to be able to work post-studies. So the magnitude of impact will be quite large on any number of students who are thinking about where they go abroad. Now, it is also quite a large impact on current students, because where there is a certain amount of, a definitive amount of uncertainty is what happens to those students who are already midway their courses. Now, arguably, they came into this country on the premise that they will have access to post-study working rights. That was part of their decision making.
Right.
However, what we know is if the Migration Advisory Committee, which is currently reviewing the route on behalf of the British government, if it was to come out, or even if it didn't come out, but the British government still decided to go ahead and take away the visa or shorten the length of the visa or did anything different to it, how will it impact those who are already mid-flight? We do not know. What we are doing on our part in order to raise awareness about the matter, we've already kickstarted something called Fair Visa, Fair Chance, which is a campaign we ran last time around as well to bring this post-study work visa back. And we have been giving evidence to the Migration Advisory Committee to help them understand and feed into their official review. I've already given 2 rounds of evidence to the committee. What we're trying to help them understand is that the rhetoric in the UK that, the right wing typically tends to throw up, where they consider students as immigrants, and their concerns, for example, on things like students taking up or graduates taking up not meaningful employment, going into social care roles or healthcare roles. Are these really graduate level roles, etc.? We're trying to unpack all of them for them so that they can take a well-rounded decision. So in terms of understanding student concerns, getting all of that from the ground, we've never stopped doing that, frankly. It is an ongoing process for us because the graduate visa only came 3 years ago. So we continuously run a number of focus groups. I've just run one last week as well, giving the evidence. And that evidence is already being provided into the government on behalf of all the Indian students in the UK by NISAU, because it impacts not just our current students, but any further students who want to come in the future as well. I will also just say, just the sheer fact that the graduate route is under review and the other changes of dependents and skilled worker visas, etc., has already led to a 40% fall in enrollments from India for the January intake that has just gone. So the numbers are large.
Very significant, that is. Very significant, a 40% drop in enrollment figures. And as you mentioned, Sanam, there's been a 7-fold rise in Indian students coming to UK in the last couple of years. So remains to be seen how this is going to impact enrollment numbers going forward. And more importantly, as you rightly pointed out, how much of this is political driven. We're talking about, remember, the Brexit couple of years back that has really changed the mood as far as the immigration policy program is concerned. Thanks much for joining us, Sanam Arora and Vareesh Pratap, for taking through that entire program that has now been revised in the UK as far as the immigration program is concerned.